Hello everyone and welcome to our Day Early Comics preview video. I'm Jason
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. So you know the drill. Every Tuesday after we're done bagging and boarding all the comics, we grab up the most desirable ones, the ones that we've been itching to read, and we lock ourselves away for hours at a time. We read them, and then we do this spoiler light review on the comics.
hmm
We're going to tell you more about them than you're going to get by just reading the little solicitation blurb. I suspect some of the people who write those, the comic isn't even done yet. They're
Yeah,
so vague. But on the other hand, we're not going to do a complete play-by-play. That way, you still get the fun of reading the comic. We will let you know if there are major first appearances or anything real important. If you're just a major, if you just collect to collect.
hmm
But if we're a reader, we want you to have that fun. So this is what I would call a medium week.
yeah,
There's not a ton of books out, but it's also not a light week, which is good because Christmas is over. We all need something to do. We got to get back to our favorite hobbies.
yeah. It feels like they're not ramping up, but with some of the books that are coming out, like the one you're going to be going over with
Yes.
Timeless,
hmm
it's like, okay, we're gearing you up for the coming
the
year and the
next
stuff.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah. So as you can see, these are some of the books we'll be going over. We have many to decide. We have variants we're going over. So without further ado, what is the first book you're going to go over, Andy?
the first one coming back to an old favorite of mine. It's Stray Dogs. This time, I mean, from this book would not exist if it wasn't for the incredible popularity of the first one.
Yep.
I mean, the you could tell the first story. What's so good about it is it's a standalone story, but the hype of it, you could tell they were like, "What else are we gonna do?" So we know we're getting more Stray Dogs, starting with Dog Days #1. This is a mini series, just like the other one's mini series, but this is more of a oh, like an interlude type thing
Okay.
because this isn't a single story. This is actually giving you little snippets of each of the dogs that you saw in the first volume of Stray Dogs. So um, you get all of the fun art and super sad, scary story that what made the original Stray Dog so great. Because the beginning of each of the stories of these dogs is with a lost dog poster, and
Oh.
it's just like you read it and you're like, oh, this is a horrible way to get information on who this dog is. But they're all kind of done in different ways, and it's interesting, and some offer rewards, and you get kind of a glimpse behind the family that these dogs have come from. Now, not all the stories are set in the same time frame. Some of them, it's when the owner just gets the dog, and you're learning about the dog that way. Some of them are stories kind of during the dog's life with its owner, and then some are at the moment that it's that something happens and the dog is taken, but you do see woven throughout the bad guy from the first volume where he first sees the dog because that's his thing. He's like he attacks the owner and steals the dog. And so you get one of the stories that actually kind of takes place during the events of the first dogs, but then you get some other ones that are they still have a hint of fun because the dogs are very likable. They all have really fun personalities, but there is that horrible air of doom is
Right.
coming to
Yep.
them. So if you liked the original Stray Dogs, highly recommend this one. It feels like an oversized issue. I think it is just a little bit to have all those stories in there. I'll be interested to see what is coming next because we've kind of got the story of all these dogs
I was
for the
thinking
most
for
part.
some reason, is this not a two-issue mini?
I think so, and I
That's
think
what I
it's
thought.
just going to cover the group of dogs. We get through probably 6 to 8 in this one, and then
hmm
we'll get probably the same because there was a lot of dogs in that first one. But there's some really like highlighted stories about some of the dogs that you saw and how long have they been captured by this person and some of their inner thoughts and everything. So I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to go play by play through each of the stories, but just know if you like the original Stray Dogs, you'll love this one. It's completely back to form, but also it is just as heart wrenching as the original one. So definitely recommend one of the best written and art books of the week for sure. And it's a return of the horror movie variant covers. So, a lot of people will be picking this up. We got a lot of people really excited for Stray Dogs returning. And yeah, good way to start it off.
I don't know if you remember this, but back when we first reviewed Stray Dogs, before Stray Dogs was a household name amongst comic households, the ones that matter
Yeah.
to people watching this show. But the writer for Stray Dogs, he commented on our video and he thanked us for reviewing.
Yeah.
And at the time we were like, oh, that's great. It's such a good book. I hope it does well. And now look at it.
Yeah. So really it's popular because of us is just what we're kind of saying. But
okay, so I have a lot of really good books I read this week. I was bragging on it to Andy. First, I'm going to start with Swamp Thing Green Hell. This is a new 3-issue miniseries. It's DC Black Label, and I'll tell you, they are working with the Black Label stuff in this, meaning it is darker content than you will see in regular DC.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the Black Label we've read has not been that way. Some of it's been like, this could have just been a what-if story. There's nothing super dark about it. This is dark. I mean, so it's a Swamp Thing story, but look at this creature there. Does that look like the nice peaceful Swamp Thing that we know? No, it does not. That's because this is a new creature. Not to say Swamp Thing's not in this, but there is a new swamp creature, much like Swamp Thing in this. So first appearance, and this creature is made to kill. So if you're a Swamp Thing fan, what if Swamp Thing was the most nightmarish it could be and wanted to kill you? That's what goes on in this book. So first off, this is by Jeff Lemire, who has always been one of my favorite writers. Mm-hmm. And he just adds a lot of human elements to everything without forgetting the superhero stuff.
Yeah.
And the art is by Doug Mahnke, who does some really good, creepy, messed up art in this. It is set in a post-apocalyptic future, but it's not like a what-if place. This is definitely the DC universe. Mm-hmm. There are hints of that. But this is not post-apocalyptic future where people have ray guns. Mm-hmm. We're talking like Walking Dead gangs, sort of post-apocalyptic future. Not a lot of technology, people banding together to survive. And amongst this, pretty much you'll have to read why, but a new Swamp Thing-like creature is created by a group. If you know your Swamp Thing lore, you'll go, oh, that's what's happening here. Mm-hmm. Is created to basically kill mankind. Like, this creature's goal is to kill everybody. And a lot of killing goes on in it. It is a scary, scary creature. Now, by the end of this issue, and as I said, this is a 3-parter, so by the end of the first issue, some familiar faces from the DC universe pop up. Some I was pretty surprised with. And it sets the story up. Like, at first, it reads like, oh, this is its own thing. Then it's like, oh, this is the future. And by the end, you're like, okay, I see where this is going. Mm-hmm. This is really cool. And it's even going to have some characters in it who I want to see how they fare in this new world. Mm-hmm. So, highly recommend it. If you like Swamp Thing at all, you're going to love it. If you're on the fence about Swamp Thing, I think this is a very strong start. A stronger start than, some other things have been. So we have one variant. This is the Ward variant.
I love that above ground, above the ocean, it looks fine, but below it, very different. Okay, next up, we have the second installment of Devil's Reign. It kind of surprised me. It almost looked like a second printing with like the purple around it. I was like, oh, this doesn't look, it doesn't have the crimson red of Daredevil on it.
It's a more muted color.
It is more muted. And
print.
What's funny about it is Daredevil's not really in this a whole lot. This is definitely a story that was built within Daredevil, but has now spread throughout the Marvel Universe, which I think is really cool. It kind of shows that even a street-level character like Daredevil can be involved in something that can really affect things. So in this one, as we know in the first one, the Kingpin has some secrets about some of the heroes of New York that he's now determined that he's going to use to control them. Um, and this is interesting because that was kind of what was solicited in the original stations was Kingpin's got this secret file of all this stuff, and now he's gonna use it to control people, and he's gonna take out Daredevil and Captain America and all these things. That is a very small part of this because this also um, is a lot about the kind of current state of being a superhero in New York, and it's not faring too well for some key characters like Tony Stark and Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, who has I didn't read the previous Iron Fist series, but I know at least in this one he's kind of retired.
Yeah, he's decided to drop the mantle.
Yeah,
To pass it on. It just hasn't officially been passed on yet.
yeah. So, but there's even people coming after him who is basically like I gave up, and they're like we don't care, which is really fun. But a lot of this book is still in the setup phase. We know there's going to be a lot of tie-ins to it, and we see the kind of early stages of those tie-ins. So we know one of the tie-ins coming up is about Doc Ock going into the Baxter building and using some of Reed Richards' tech to open a portal and find multiple versions of himself throughout the multiverse and bring them in to create his own Fantastic Four team. So we see the beginnings of that. We also know we've got a book coming out about the Thunderbolts, who are the kind of new law in the city under Kingpin. We see kind of what they're doing and what their job is, going out there tracking down some of these heroes. What I thought was really fun is there is the ones that have already been taken. People like Reed Richards and Sue Storm in the first one are in a supervillain prison with like their power dampeners or whatever. But it really shows that I think even Reed Richards says that they are they can even be fantastic without their powers, and you see them kind of get in a jail brawl, and it's funny to see Reed and Sue do that. Um, but yeah, Elektra's in this, but very briefly. Matt Murdock's in this, but very briefly. This feels more like looking at Kingpin and then the whole city. So I really enjoyed this issue. I'm interested to see where it's technically heading because it still feels like we're setting up Kingpin's master plan. But I will say there is a big thing that happens with Luke Cage in this that definitely could set up some big storylines for him coming up in the future. So Devil's Reign #2, really cool. There's some cool stuff with Spider-Man, like you see on the cover with Ben Reilly. But yeah, I'm really on board for this ride of it. I can't wait to see where it goes. So that is the #2. You see Taskmaster is one of those Thunderbolts on the team. We have the Bagley connecting variant, which is kind of what surprised me the most about this is how much Captain America and Iron Man are also in this. It felt originally just like a Daredevil story. We have the Inhyuk Lee variant. And then we have the Ramita Jr. 1 in 25 variant that we are selling for $20 to our customers.
So if Swamp Thing was my DC pick for the week, I can clearly say my Marvel pick for the week is Timeless. This is a one-shot comic. This is by Jed MacKay, who we talk about on the show all the time now because he writes so many good books over at Marvel. And luckily, they're just giving him more and more reign to write really good books. So every year, Marvel does a one-shot right before the new year where it just sort of hints at what is to come in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the best and biggest parts of the book are those hints. This book has that in it. It definitely has a part where Kang is looking in a time stream and you see different panels with different things. I will not reveal what those are. The only one I'll reveal, because it's already been all over the news, you get to see the first cameo of the new Punisher skull on the Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been out there. So that is there. But you do get to see a lot of things that I'm very excited about. But to me, what makes this book awesome is that Jed MacKay, he tells a full story through this book. I mean, it has a really good one-shot story to it as well. So let's see, how much of this can I reveal? So Kang has taken on a companion. He's like
He's
he's
like
like
a
Marvel's
Doctor
Doctor
Who.
Who, yeah. But his companion is this. He's a writer from Moscow. He's a scholar, and he writes books on superheroes and supervillains. And he's writing a book on who he thinks the greatest supervillain is. I won't reveal who it is, but let's just say it's not Kang. So Kang shows up, and he doesn't like that very much, and he says, "I'm taking you on a trip. I want to show you some things." So he takes this guy on a trip, and I can't tell you all the details. It's so much I want to say. I told Andy all about this
Yeah.
after I read it. But what I will say is, what is a pirate timeline? And I'm not talking about a timeline where everybody's a pirate.
The one where Big Grim is is Blackbeard and stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, Captain America's not there as a buccaneer. But what is a pirate timeline, and what does that mean for the Marvel Universe? You will find that out in this. Who's behind it all? They play with your sensibilities when you read this. You think you know, but then when you find out who, it's a lot more shocking. And it all comes to a really great resolution. The story of Timeless is just really awesome. It was one of my favorite reads of the week. My favorite Marvel read of the week, for sure. Possibly my favorite read of all of those. Let me think. Anything else I wanted to add to this? Oh yeah. So Thanos with the Infinity Hammer is addressed in this. Now I'm not saying they tell you all about it, but it comes back. It is addressed. Kang sees it. Kang has something to say about it. I mean, how can you pass that up? Like,
Yeah.
if you're a Marvel reader, you want to know what's coming up, but you also want a legitimately good story. I recommend Timeless. We've got a ton of variants as well.
This was our biggest ordered variant for sure.
Yeah, so this is the Ramos Ms. Minutes variant.
Yep. For her first appearance in comics after the Loki TV show.
Yep. I will say she's only on the cover. She does not appear in the book. Then we've got the Momoko Stormbreakers variant. They give all the Stormbreakers variants in this. Here is the Gleason. I really like this one. The more I look at it, the more I like this one. Here is the Carnero. That's cool too. Some pretty strong ones here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the Coelho. Then we have the Cassera. And I have to say, this may or may not be your favorite, but this one stands out the most, I think.
Yeah.
The Bustos. Just the bold lines and the coloring.
It's like a big old sticker.
Yeah. And then we have the RB Silva. And lastly, the Cabal.
I think they told him, like, you can do whatever you want, but there has to be a clock somewhere on it. That's a cool
I get the
technique.
same feeling, yeah.
Okay, my next one is a big DC one. This is DC versus Vampires #3. So this is by James Tynion. His life at DC is not over because this 12-part maxi series is still just getting started. The first two have sold incredibly well. People are loving this. And this issue, we are still slowly learning how incorporated the vampires are into the DC universe. After the beginning where Andrew Bennett, the iVampire, let them know that there is a great vampire war coming, and he was trying to stop it, but maybe that they have already infiltrated the Justice League. Then we learned in, I believe the first one, that Green Lantern was already a vampire. I'm trying to figure out how far up do I want to spoil, because it's like, okay, who do we know so far that is? But there was a major death in the previous issue because one of the Justice League was too dangerous to be turned into a vampire. Even the vampire said, if this person was turned into a vampire, it would ruin it for the rest of us. So this begins with the Justice League investigating that death. And it's cool because we already know that Batman knows a lot more than he's telling the rest of the Justice League in very Batman fashion. You saw in the previous one where he was like equipping all of his Bat family with weapons to fight against the vampires and to protect Gotham. But in this one, we are seeing a couple of different characters. So now we see Aquaman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all kind of they're all investigating, they're all acting like, hey, we're all part of the same team, but they all have their own theories as well. Especially someone like Wonder Woman is very smart. I think her intelligence is underplayed in a lot of things because she is a very intelligent, can put the pieces together, very savvy character. So you'll have to read to see what happens with her because that is a very cool part where she confronts somebody about this. There's also Black Canary, and what is she doing? Going around stabbing people with a syringe. Pretty cool scene as well. But the big thing is Batman investigating the death of, I think, is it Zan, the one Wonder Twin that can turn into water. Um, there's a scene, if you know what happened to him in issue 1, involving a Green Lantern made blender. Uh, Batman's investigation takes him to the sewer where maybe the Wonder Twin that can turn into a liquid was poured down a drain. But we get some really interesting dialogue between Batman and Jana, the other Wonder Twin. And this is really building up to be a super cool series. Knowing it's 12 issues, I can see this is going to get really big and a really big all-out war between the heroes and the vampires and who's going to be on what side and who's going to betray who. So, great issue of DC versus Vampires. It's one of, I think, the coolest DC things coming out. I mean, they're really doing a great job with their maxi series. We've got Dark Knights of Steel. We've got DC versus Vampires. They're really embracing that idea of, without calling it like, oh, this is Earth whatever, this is Earth whatever. They're being like, we're just writing stories with these characters you love in different situations and with a spin on them that I really enjoy.
Human Target's another.
Yeah.
Nice House on the Lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, DC, definitely big props for taking some risk with some very different ideas. So we have the variant this week. It's the Matina variant. I will say you do not see this zombie or vampire lord Superman in the issue, but it's a really cool look.
That should be somebody's Halloween costume.
Oh, yeah.
The zombie Superman. Okay, so I read Apache Delivery Service. This is a new one from Matt Kindt with art by Tyler Jenkins. And this is for Dark Horse. Kindt writing for them instead of, he always does the bad idea stuff. But this one, if you watch our comics in the future, they resolicited the #1. They had us order second print #1 before this came out because they said that this sold out on the distributor level, meaning all the ones they printed, all of us retailers ordered them and reordered them even before they were here. I don't know what other shops do, but we put our order amount in and then we just wait to get them.
Yep.
So because we don't know how they're going to be. So anyway, now that this is here, this is a good example why we do this show. So the solicitation said that there was going to be a character in Vietnam looking for Nazi gold. Right off the bat, I was like, okay, well, what's the year? Are we talking like modern day he's going to Vietnam looking for Nazi gold? Is this during the Vietnam War? Is this before the Vietnam War? And so I can tell you now, this is set during the Vietnam War. So our main character, he has Native American he has Native American ancestry, and he is in Vietnam. It looks like he got drafted to Nam, and he is a really good hunter tracker. He was just taught by his dad. We get a few scenes of that. And what they use him for is he'll find where the Viet Cong is. He'll go out in the wild for like a week, find out where they are, report back, and then they bomb that location. And that is why they call the book, they kind of joke at him that he's the Apache delivery service because he delivers the bomb there. But of course, because Matt he can't just write something straight. You know, he's got to add his twist. First off, his fellow soldiers don't like him. They seem like they're pretty racist or something. Secondly, he's not an Apache. He tells him he's a Navajo and to quit calling him that. You know, this is some of what I like about
Yeah.
Matt Kim likes his characters and situations complex. Well, anyway, he's so good at doing his job that his commanding officer says, "Why don't you take a week off going to the city? Because no one likes you around here, even though you're very important."
Yeah.
So on his way to the city, he gets in trouble, and a strange man saves him and says, "I've been watching you. You want to join me, and we're going to go find some hidden Nazi gold?" But this dude seems super sinister. And that's all I can say without ruining anything else. So that's sort of the setup to this tale. Interesting environment, interesting year. But if Matt Kinn's writing it, I'm on board
Yeah.
to see where it goes. So there you go. That's Apache Delivery Service issue number 1, and here is the Lawrence Campbell variant. But I guarantee what I told you tells you way more about this without ruining it than if you read this solicitation. I was like, this is a lot of elements, but what?
Yeah.
So
My next one, I believe, is by that same artist that did that cover. I think this is Lawrence Campbell that is doing, yes,
oh wow,
doing the Sword of Hyperborea. Now, this is in the Hellboy universe. We are returning to the Hellboy universe. But this is another one of those tales that's like, if you haven't read all of Hellboy, it's still very accessible because that is a very big world full of a lot of interesting characters. And this is just a look at one person or one sword. So there is a sword in this world that is kind of a very Conan Lovecraftian, it's been around since before time was counted type thing. And we pick up the story actually towards the end of everything that went on with Hellboy and BPRD. Now, you don't necessarily need to know that whole story. You just know there's a big war going on between humanity and these giant space god things. And we see our main character has the sword there. Well, something happens and we jump backwards to like a primordial caveman times where this character is now going to find where this sword came from. His father found it, they said, up north in these ancient ruins. And for the ruins to be ancient at this time, I mean, this is, way super old. So it kind of sets up that like prehistory thing that they do. And he's going to track all the way up there. But along the way, he's getting these, they're not visions, but they're words that come to him. And the words are things like Chicago and the name Liz. It's very interesting that it's almost like he's living like in two timelines or something. I'm interested to see how they work it out. But we'll say he travels, I feel like it's further north than he ever expected because he starts to grow a beard and it starts to turn gray as he's still traveling. And you'll have to see what he discovers when he gets there. But this is setting it up to be a really cool. I'm not sure if the next issue is going to still be following him or following the sword to its kind of next owner. But I kind of like that. You're following the lucky penny as somebody drops it and picks it up and that whole type thing. But now in this world of Hellboy. So if you're a Hellboy fan, this is exactly the tone I know you're looking for because I'm a big fan. This kind of dark ancient history type thing. But if you've never read Hellboy stuff, this is still accessible as a really interesting, pulpy horror fantasy book. So that is Sword of Hyperborea #1. I believe it's maybe, I can't remember if it's 3 or 6 issues, but it's a pretty finite story. Then we have the really cool variant of this where you kind of get the idea the sword is really the main character in this.
All right, also out from DC, I read Detective Comics issue 1046. You gotta love it when the comic goes this high in numbers. You want to say 1046. You don't want to 1046. You got to abbreviate it. Okay, so as it says on the cover, we're still in the Fear State aftermath. This does not have a whole lot to do with Fear State other than they're starting to build Arkham Tower. Now, next issue begins the weekly Arkham Tower run they're doing. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Also, this issue has the first appearance of a new villain named Anna Vol'jin. And I would like to point out that there are a lot of sources out there right now claiming next issue is going to be her first appearance. There's a lot of bad information out there.
Yeah.
So we don't believe anything till we read it. But I'm telling you, she is in this, and not just a cameo. She's in multiple parts. She has dialogue. So Anna Vol'jin's first full appearance is actually in this issue and not at next issue. Past that, you got Batwoman and Huntress are in this a good bit, and they start discussing the possibility that Batman is leaving Gotham. That's been all in the news, that Batman is supposed to leave Gotham. I doubt it's going to be for long, and I hope it's not for long, personally. But past that, they also discussed the new Arkham. Everybody has their take on, is Arkham a good place? Is it a bad place? So a lot of talk about that. Now, the backup story was actually a little bit more of an action-packed story. The backup story has Harley and Batman. It's a continuation of last issue's backup story, where they're trying to stop this guy who's trying to destroy the tower even before it's built. Like, he's at the construction site trying to destroy the tower, and he's nearly doing it. Well, you get to find out who this guy is. Why does he care so much? What is his link with Arkham? So that gets finally revealed, and you get some resolution there, just in time for next issue where they really get into the Arkham Tower stuff. So we have this variant by Lee Bermejo. If you know Bermejo's work, there is no doubt that is one of his.
It's funny where they consider next week to be the beginning of the weekly thing, but when you put out a book the week before weekly thing, that immediately becomes part of a weekly thing.
That's a teasy.
You would think there would be maybe 1 week in between that, but I'm excited about the Arkham Tower stuff. I think that's a really cool concept, and I've gotten to see a kind of a sneak preview of, I guess, next week's issue, and it's pretty intense.
You were telling me about
that.
I got to check that out.
Okay, so next up is quickly becoming one of my favorite DC titles, and it's funny because it's one that I think when it started, we didn't really know. It's kind of those, why this book, like what is this? But this is Deathstroke Inc.
The title especially was
4.
like...
Yeah, and that's still not explained. There's no... Deathstroke does not have his own corporation in this or anything. But what I've learned by reading this is I should have known Joshua Williamson is writing this. This actually is a bigger deal to the overall DC universe than I think anyone guessed. Initially, I thought, oh, maybe he just wants to write some like fun characters on the side. And this book is very fun. Every issue so far has been action-packed. It's bright. Howard Porter's art is super cool. But we learned in the previous issue that this corporation that Black Canary and Deathstroke have both been working for, but secretly they both kind of have their own agenda by being there. They're both kind of investigating it, called Trust. They found out that one of the people behind it, as they, I believe Black Canary was sneaking around, was tied to an old Justice League villain named, I believe, Libra. And that character goes all the way back to Final Crisis. So a big character in the famed DC Crises that they have. And we started to get some ideas of some multiverse stuff going on. Well, in this one, Black Canary and Deathstroke finally kind of fess up to each other. You know, we both know that we're not actually working for this corporation. We're both working for people. Black Canary is basically like, yeah, I'm working for Oracle. She's investigating this, and I'm kind of her mole on the inside. Deathstroke, why are you doing this? And he's like, for the money. And she's like, I know it's not for the money. But he still doesn't want to give up everything. But they are, in this one, about to confront the leader of Trust about bringing them down. They've got enough evidence. They're going to take her down and take down the whole organization with them. when they are interrupted by, and it's not a spoiler because it's on the cover, the Legion of Doom, which is very weird when it happens because this is Lex Luthor, Gorilla Grodd, Captain Cold, um, Black Hand, which haven't seen Black Hand in a long time. I'll say it is explained. You'll have to read it to find out. But where this issue ends is a pretty crazy place. Just going to show you that this is a book about more than just these two characters. We get a hint to why these two characters are involved. Someone mentioned something about balance, and it is a place that I don't think anyone would guess it would end up. So you'll have to read it to find out, but if you haven't checked out Deathstroke Inc., your store probably still has some of the first issues. Check it out because I feel like this is when we get to the end of maybe the first arc, people will be talking about this one as it pertains to the DC universe as a whole. We have a variant cover. This one is by Ivan Teo. Really cool.
All right, so for Marvel, I read Death of Doctor Strange #4. So once a comic gets this far in, it's hard to discuss everything that's in it without spoiling.
Yeah.
So here's what I will say. By the end of this issue, the identity of who killed Doctor Strange is revealed. Like, it really is. And you also learn the motive. So for those of you who are just wondering, what's this one going to be about? Or you're on the fence, you bought issue 3, you're not sure if you want #4. Well, you get to find out who did it and why they did it. In addition, before that, though, you get to see how things shake out with Baron Mordo. Because last issue ended where Strange was like kind of threatening his life. He was like, I'm literally going to kill you, Mordo. I'm sick of you. And Mordo had been caught with some of Strange's magic items that were stolen off his dead body. Well, you get to find out where that goes as well. And lastly, the Doctor Strange of this comic, not necessarily the one who died, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, he gets some good advice from Bats, the dog, which I think is great. I would, if one of my dogs could have talked, I think they would have gave me good advice, because Bats is literally like, hey, go take me for a walk. And on the walk, he's like, let me help you with this murder mystery a little bit. So I thought that was a really good scene too. But so a pretty important issue of Death of Doctor Strange. One left to go, and don't forget about the Three Mothers, the villainous force that beat down the Avengers, because they're still out there and they are hungry. So I do not have any variant for that. We probably, or no, here it is. Here is the Woo Villain's Reign variant. And we also have this 1 in 25 Medina variant that we're selling to our customers for $35 with magic on the cover there. And I forgot to mention this is how I missed it. That Detective Comics I went over previously, we have a 1 in 25 Segovia variant for $20 to our customers. So I know that's not Doctor Strange, it's not even Marvel, but I wanted to get back to that before I lost track.
Okay, my next one is one that I will go over just real quick. This is Action Comics 1038. I know we now say 10. Yep, issue 1038 just doesn't it doesn't work. This is more a War World story with Superman, and this one is pretty brutal with what Superman is going through on War World now that his powers are not at their peak efficiency. His team of the Authority has been beaten down and shackled. It's a pretty rough go of it for Superman. But what is key to this is Superman, when he is in the kind of holding pens for this this fighting arena, he comes in contact with some more ex-Kryptonians, I guess.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. He met some of those previously when they landed on Earth that we saw quite a few issues back. And these are from that same group. But what is key to this is, and this kind of goes to, if you read a lot of comics, you notice how things are structured. And if they present a character in a certain way with certain designs and they say the name right there and everything, you get a good idea that this is going to be an important character. So this has the first appearance of Krill Ux. And I feel like they make the names where you can say them together, so it's like Krillix or whatever, but seems to be what's going to be a advisor type character to Superman while he's on this planet. Um, so some of the websites have been pointing out that this is a first appearance. There may have been a cameo in a previous issue, just when we saw a bunch of characters, but this is definitely laying it out as a new big character who has a very cool design. Seems like, you know, a character that's going to be sticking around or have some kind of influence on the series. But there is also another name that is said that no one has shown, and Superman basically asks, as he's slowly passing out from pain, what are your names? And one of them says their name is Osul Ra, and then like another character says shut up. But it also seems very specific that that character says their name. Also sounds a lot like it's OSUL-RA. A little bit like Ursa or Ursula, which, I mean, Ursa was a character from the movies and everything. She's been in the comics, but it'll be interesting to see who these characters end up being now that the world of Superman has been turned on its head so much recently. So, yeah, this is definitely I feel like one of our first big issues that's really exploring the war world and what is at stake there and everything. So that is Action Comics 1038, and there is a variant. We are sold out of it because it's really cool and with kind of barbarian Superman. Anytime those came out, even back in Future State, everybody loved those. So,
All right, so I read Robin #9. This is the final issue that has to do with the tournament, from what I can tell. So all that kind of comes to a head. And right on this cover, it says Rage of the Lazarus Demon. So yes, it is Robin up against this huge, powerful Lazarus Demon who gets more powerful by eating the deaths of warriors. And what's been going on in this tournament the whole time? Warriors have been killing each other. So, even if you haven't been reading the series, you can see the dilemma there when you're going up against a creature like that. So, Robin needs to get some good advice. He's getting his butt kicked in this book. And who does he turn to? He turns into his inner Alfred. We've seen, the inner sort of, ghost of Alfred give him advice throughout this series. So there's a really good part with that where Alfred gives him some good advice. Whether it's just Robin making up what he would say or not, who knows? But it's nice to have Alfred in something.
I like how it's like his influence was so strong on Damian that Damian can't help but hear what Alfred's opinions would be about things.
Yeah. And Robin's going to have to do something in this issue that he does not like to do, and that is he's going to have to ask for help. There is no way he's going to beat this demon without the help of the others. And so it's pretty cool seeing everybody who fought together, and now will they be able to come together? Will all of them? Will some of them? But this does end the whole tournament thing. And at the end, it takes you somewhere else that looks like it's going into the deep roots of a major Batman villain who is highly linked to Damian Wayne. So you can tell that the story is about to progress into something completely different now. I really like the tournament stuff. I hope we see some of these characters again. In particular, I thought Flatline was a really cool character. I hope to see her again. And speaking of cool characters, here is the Manipal variant with XXL. Another interesting character.
They've set those characters up so well that they could easily be put on like a Teen Titans team or something.
Almost was wondering if that's where it was going, but I don't know. The ending here, I can't say, but I'm not sure it's headed that way.
Or an anti-Teen Titans or something. But okay, my next one is Amazing Spider-Man issue number 83. When you start to get to the high numbers, I start to forget how far we are. 83. And this is a really cool issue. What I really like that they've been doing is we knew going into this run of Amazing Spider-Man that it was going to be about Ben Reilly taking over the mantle of Spider-Man. But we've actually been getting quite a few issues that are also about Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So it's doing, and especially because this comes out 3 times a month, it's nice to get, it almost feels like you're reading a Ben Reilly book and a Peter Parker book separately. So, of course, Peter Parker, after the events of the first issue in this run, has been in the hospital, seriously injured. His spider sense has become almost like a disease on him because it's alerting him about problems in his body. Like, of course, he's hurt, and so it's doing that. It's, creating horrible headaches and stuff. So he is definitely not up to speed. But he is slowly recovering in the hospital. Well, in this one, that Peter Parker tenacity basically tells him, "You can get up. You can go fight crime when you hear somebody yell for help." And as you expect, it does not go well for a Peter Parker who still hasn't recovered. This is a really good issue. I like. Even though it's kind of a let's check in on Peter Parker and see what's going on with him, it still does a lot of character development for the characters that have been in this. We do get, I don't know if we actually even get any Ben Reilly in this, but we do get some of the other characters that have been in that part of the story. I love the writing in this. So this is written and drawn by Patrick Gleason. So this is like back to that first issue, amazing art. But also, he's got a very funny sense of writing Peter Parker, especially when Peter Parker is on pain meds. And what does he do when he does that? Well, he texts people, stuff maybe he shouldn't. And also, he goes on eBay and maybe orders a cosplay version of Spider-Man and a J. Jonah Jameson bobblehead. So... and that actually factors into the story in a really fun way. This is a very, even though there's some dark stuff going on, you get some of that goofy Peter Parker, like getting into trouble, putting his foot in his mouth, all that kind of stuff. It is a great issue, and I'm continuing to love this run of Amazing Spider-Man. But check out the variant. This one, I don't know if it will be as big as the other one, which I forgot to mention something in this. But let me show this variant off first, because it kind of pertains to it. This is the Patrick Gleason variant. Super cool. With kind of, it's a little bit of spider sense, turning into roughly a spider logo.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. But something I wanted to mention is the Spider-Man, do you remember what issue it was?
Was that issue 48?
Yeah, everyone knows it. It's the Gleason variant that was black with the kind of creating Spider-Man out of spider webs.
Yes, it was black with the white webs that made up Spider-Man.
Yeah, they did many different...
Same style. He
Yeah.
later did this one, but that's not it, but it was the same style.
Yeah.
That's a Gleason as well.
I will say that that version of Spider-Man, this web Spider-Man, makes an appearance in this issue. It would have been, if it wasn't for the success of that cover, we would have never got this scene. And I won't say it's like, oh, first appearance of web Spider-Man or whatever, but definitely check it out. It is super cool, and it factors into the story, so that is awesome. We also have one more variant, and this one's cool. This is Israel Silva. This is part of the Villain's Reign variants. And check that out. Now, it's hard to tell. It looks very, like, female body, so I'm wondering if this is, especially with the hood, Gwen Stacy, Ghost Spider, but as Bullseye. So really cool. When I saw that, anytime there's a new version of Gwen Stacy in a costume, I have to pick it up. So I'm definitely getting this. I'm getting all of the covers for this issue because it is super cool. Great ones in this one.
All right, so I read the next Wastelanders one-shot, which is Wastelanders Star-Lord. So right off the bat, look at the cover. It's Starlord with Rocket Raccoon. I like the old elderly Rocket Raccoon with his cane. I'm sure it's actually a secondary gun to the big gun he's still holding. Sadly, Rocket does not appear in this issue. He is just on the cover. So in this, instead, Peter Quill. Well, first off, the issue makes it clear that this takes place prior to Old Man Quill number 12. So for anyone who has read that series, this takes place before that. And in this, he's back on Earth for a certain reason. He's going to see somebody, or he's kind of going to go to the resting place of somebody he cared for. But instead, he ends up getting tormented, both literally and metaphorically. He's haunted by a bunch of his old hero friends from all different kinds of teams. I mean, this is a very mean issue to Peter Quill as they just unload on him. You're a coward. Where were you? All that. But who or what is behind this haunting? You'll have to read to find out what is going on in this issue. And so we have here is the Slimy variant. I think there maybe is one more Wastelander one-shot to come out, maybe.
We've got Black Widow hasn't come out
Widow.
yet. Is there a Doom one?
I can't recall. There might be.
I don't remember all of them, but it's hard to tell when they're not super connected. But my next one is, of course, it is time for Star Wars. I don't think there's a week that goes by the Star Wars book doesn't come out.
Yeah, for sure.
For someone like me, that is great for me mentally, terrible for me financially. But a new installment in Star Wars Bounty Hunters. This is number 19. And it kind of is acting like this is a tie-in to Crimson Reign, but it's very loosely tied in with that. Now, what I will say is we saw on a connecting variant cover for the main Crimson Reign that one of the segments is a TIE Fighter pilot. I will say, you do know who the TIE Fighter pilot that they're referring to in this issue is. So it's not a big surprise. It's a character you know. But this dual cover, which is a really nice cover, is kind of a flashback to what's going on currently and in the past with a character. But the notable thing about this one is, from what I could find, this is the first appearance of the Dark Squadron. Now, it's interesting because Dark Squadron, there's another squadron it's like the Shadow Squadron, something like that. But Dark Squadron, especially, was a group that they were going to make after Rogue Squadron, the video game. So Rogue Squadron came out. It's where you're an X-Wing pilot and everything. They were going to do a follow-up called Dark Squadron where you actually play as the TIE Fighter pilots. And it never got made. It got canceled. Looking around everywhere, I haven't seen them referred to since an article about that. And now you see the Dark Squadron in this. The team of not TIE fighters, but a version of TIEs in a very cool way. They've all got their call signs and everything. I won't say that they all make it out of this one, but it's a really cool issue. And the other thing I wanted to show is we've got the next issue of Star Wars Adventures number 13. Like all of them, this contains 2 stories. One with Rey and Finn trying to get some work done on the Falcon during the time frame of Force Awakens. And the backstory is with Darth Vader. That is a pretty scary story about how destructive Vader can be. We have the variants for them. So we have the U variant for Bounty Hunters. Bosk and Zuckuss do appear in this one. And you see how Bosk regrows his feet after they get blown off. Pretty funny. We have the Lucasfilm 50th anniversary variant. This time with Solo, with Han and Lando on the cover. And this awesome Adventures variant featuring Darth Vader and his legions. It's a really, really nice cover. And finally, we have the 1 in 10 Francavilla variant, the black and white variant that we are selling for $25 to our customers.
So we don't review every single book that comes out every week. We review a lot of them. We try to do the ones we think people are most interested in, and a few that we just personally like. But one book that I've kept reading but I haven't reviewed in a while is Ice Cream Man. So I said, hey, I'm going to review an Ice Cream Man. It's been a little while. So this is Ice Cream Man issue number 27. And on the cover, it gives you a little bit of an idea of what it's about. What I have to say is the writing on Ice Cream Man is still superb, if that's what you're looking for. I mean, it is a dark, disturbing book. It hits you on worse levels than just gore. It's more that existential dread. And in this issue, it's about bugs. Okay, you start with this group of bugs, and they talk. They have cutesy little bug ways of saying things, and they're kind of a bug family, but they're gross and they're weird. Well, one of them starts turning into a human. So see, unlike Kafka's Metamorphosis, he's doing the reverse. Instead of a human turning into a bug, it's a bug turning into a human. And as he turns into a human, he begins understanding human things. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, well, as you're becoming a human, your life's going to get a little bit better. Because when you were a bug, I got to see what that was like. You had to worry about getting squished, you had to find food, all this. But as a human, you know, we're more the controllers of this planet. But of course that's not how it goes, you know. And he gets a family, and I don't mean he earns one. Like, it's like as he turns more human, he just has one, but he's still kind of a bug. And of course the horror to it is that his life doesn't get better as a human. In fact, you end up looking back on it and going, you know what, I think you were better off as a bug. There's lots of metaphors of feeling like a bug, like once he gets into human, like working world and life and problems with his wife and marriage. It's messed up, you know. I mean, if you want to read an issue where it's like you feel bad something's a bug, but then by the end you're like, man, I'd go back to being a bug, that's Ice Cream Man number 27. But I mean, that's why the writing's amazing. I have to be in the right mood for it, meaning a really good mood, because it's the type of book that'll bring you down. But excellent writing, great art, and check out this awesome variant cover by Benjaminson. I mean, look at that. That is a sweet cover.
It's a sweet hairdo.
Yep.
Okay, my next one is our next installment of Echolands. This is Echolands number 5. A little bit harder to see this cover. It would be me just shouting nonsense to try to tell you what's going on in this issue. If you haven't been reading it, it would be about spacemen and cavemen and zombies and spacemen all together. But pretty cool. If you didn't notice, the title works this way and this way. They did a really cool design work. But the art in this is really neat. And this issue works, of course, you read the book like this, but there's kind of 2 parallel stories going on, one at the top and one at the bottom, which I really like. They're taking full advantage of all the creativity they can use in a book. And of course, in this one, you get some very differing art styles, but all somehow working together in a really cool way. But to give you a hint of one of them is this really awesome variant cover. And check out this super cool robot that appears in this issue.
I'm back in the 80s.
So, and more than just this robot shows up in this issue. Such a cool thing. Hard to describe it, but if you haven't read it, check it out. This is another beautiful issue of Echolands at number 5.
All right, so I've been enjoying Human Target, I have to say. If this book has any failing, I think if you had read about what it's about, you know, that Christopher Chance, he has to like figure out he's trying to kill Lex Luthor. That is the plot, but that's not really what I care about. Just the writing itself, it's Tom King doing what he does well, which is just making those little moments either profound or funny. Mm-hmm. That's what I enjoy about the book. When I don't really focus on, oh yeah, that's the driving motivator is the Lex Luthor thing, I actually enjoy it more. Not that that isn't interesting, and not that I don't think it's going to be something, you know, potentially mind-blowing by the end, as Tom King tends to do. This is a 12-issue series. We're only at issue 3. So right now, I think he's just trying to charm you with the characters. But more than that, this is noir. This is superhero noir,
Mm.
and he is doing it perfectly. It is very balanced superhero noir because Christopher Chance doesn't have any powers. So, say in this issue, when Guy Gardner comes along, and he's mad because Chance has been hanging out with his ex-girlfriend Ice from Justice League International. He plays it very noir. He's not afraid of Guy Gardner. He's a tough guy himself. But unlike all of the noir movies I've watched over the years, I'm a big movie fan as well. The superpower element, it just spins the whole thing.
Yeah.
It just spins the whole thing. I mean, there's a part in this book where Guy Gardner pulls up next to Chance at a light, and he's in a Green Lantern created car revving his engine. It's stuff like that. It's like I've seen this in movies, but not with the superhero edge. That's really cool. And Guy Gardner, he's such a jerk, and he's a jerk in this, and he kind of gets his in this issue too. On top of that, you got Booster Gold. They go to Booster Gold because the mystery once again important. I'm sure it'll go somewhere, but to me, I didn't care as much as with the journey. And Booster Gold, he has a new franchise he's behind called Booster's Bagels. That's what the cover is about. That's what the cover is about, yeah. And the whole part is hilarious. He is so weird in the brain. But yeah, there's one really good joke from it. I can't tell it otherwise. It made me laugh out loud. So anyway, I've been enjoying it. Issue 1, I was like, this isn't bad. I don't know about the premise. Issue 2, I was like, this is just a fun read. Issue 3, I'm like, yeah, this is just really fun to read. So here we have the Art Germ variant with Ice on the cover of it. A lot of fighting over her in this issue.
Okay, my next one is Rise of Dracula. This is from Source Point, and this is the follow-up to Cult of Dracula. If you remember Cult of Dracula, we actually had Rich Davis, the writer, came in, did a signing for us here, a great guy, and this book was so successful, it's got this follow-up series, Rise of Dracula. If you liked Cult of Dracula, you will like this one. It is as over the top, it is violent. It's got a sense of humor. It's kind of I don't know. It's a new spin on kind of the vampire genre. So if you liked Cult of Dracula, you'll definitely want to pick up Rise of Dracula.
It's bloody and brutal. I was flipping through it, and there's a part where somebody got their head stepped on, and I mean squished to death. Like blood squirts out, eyes and everything.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's what you're signing up for with it, I guess. Okay, so I read Flash issue number 777. Yet again, an awesome book. We've been singing praises of Flash for a long time now. We just did our year-end review, and we're like, we gotta bring up Flash. This has been such a good run. This is yet another good issue. So I could go on and on about what I think the hallmarks of good writing are, but one thing I think that makes good writing is that it does the unexpected and it takes turns you don't expect. In this is two stories being told at once. One story follows Wally West's family. It is his son Jai and his daughter Ivy. And Jai is writing what he calls an action journal, I think is what he calls it. It looks like a diary. He gets made fun of, but he's like, no, it's an action journal. I only write down things of great importance in action. Well, you get to read it, and you get to learn what his inner thoughts are, what's going on with him. And when you hear that term in something, it's always, oh, it's going to be dark. It actually is not dark. He's actually doing some fun stuff. He's got a good sense of humor. Really, he's trying to find out what his sister's up to, because there's a new kid she's made friends with who's like definitely sort of like a bad kid, pretending to be good. So all that, it's like, wow, I didn't pick up Flash to read about these kids. Yet this is all just really compelling and written just right. Like the voices are just right. It's paced just right. But you get a page of that, then boom, you're back with Flash, and he's with the Justice League Dark. They're in Gem World. They're trying to stop Eclipso's plan. They're trying to catch up with Eclipso, who's been ahead of them. We haven't even seen him. And they're in, a lot of danger, and it's the whole Justice League Dark. It's not just Dr. Fate. It's Constantine's there. They're all there. Some really big stuff they're doing. They're fighting. But then it goes back and it's Wally West's family and what's happening to them at school. And she's getting in trouble and he's going to blackmail her, get him more video game playtime. But then you're back with Justice League Dark. Anyway, excellent issue. A lot of progress made on all fronts. But then the ending, it turns out that what's going on with the kids looks like it's going to be as important or more important for the overall book.
Wow.
Yeah,
cool.
in the last few pages, I'm like, oh, wow, I did not see that coming at all. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So check it out. Go back, get the earlier Flash issues. It's just every time. Yeah. I'm glad. So the only reason that Andy doesn't review this is because after Future State, I guess that week, I just happened to get that first.
Yeah.
But that's one that we both read.
Yeah.
And that if I weren't reviewing it, I know you read it too.
Yeah,
so.
after the issue where you're kind of in the issue, and then you've got, it started out strong with all of the jumping into different bodies and everything, but it didn't lose anything from that. After that really good idea, it actually kept up the momentum and the interesting ideas, which I highly applaud a superhero book for not just giving me run-of-the-mill superhero. It's still bringing something fresh each time.
Yep. It has some new good Wally West stories. Here is the variant by Corona. See Flash there with the Justice League Dark.
Okay, next up we have just some stuff to show off. First off, we have the second printing. I want to make sure this is second. Yes, second printing of Superman Son of Kal-El number 5. Feels like it took a while for this one to come in.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Probably because we got all of those other reprints right before this issue came out. But if your store sold out of it, see if they have number 5 second print.
Okay, so I read Harley Quinn issue number 10. This one starts out with a betrayal and just a bloody, mean murder of a fairly new character. I was pretty shocked. I was like, oh, that's a straight up murder. Like, not even like, oh, they probably survived. And but meanwhile, Ivy's back with Harley. They go on a date to the museum. It's a double date with Kevin and the girl he's interested in. The problem is, has Ivy completely given up her criminal ways? You'll have to see how that shakes out. And if she hasn't, is Harley good to go along with her on that? Let's just say there's a lot of arguments in this, but they're well done. Also, a lot of style. Everybody gets some cool clothing in this issue. There were some pages I was like, wow, they took some time dressing them up to go on this date. So, pretty cool issue. And yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Here is the Derek Chu variant. And we have the 1 in 25 Lynn variant that we're selling for $45.
Yeah, there's a different artist on this issue. It's Laura Braga. If you haven't seen her stuff, she did some work during the Bombshells, DC Bombshells, back when they did that. She was one of the artists on that. And she did the art on Harley and Ivy Meet Betty and Veronica series. So these are not new characters to her, and really pulls off some good stuff with that. So next up, we have, showing off another one of these homage variant covers, this time for Vengeance of Vampirella. We've got the homage to Amazing Spider-Man 300. Not sure how many more of these there are, but it looks like they're going to be homaging some more covers coming up soon. So if you're into the homage covers, you're just getting started.
Yeah, we haven't had to order anything past the McFarlane, the TMNT number 1 homages, and the TMNT number 2. I haven't seen anything else
There's
yet.
one for the issue where Venom's on top of Spider-Man.
Oh, right, with the claws.
With the claws. Yeah,
316.
Yeah, they're doing some variants doing that one. Okay. And I just feel like, are they just going to go through all of the classic McFarlane covers? And
I suspect they will.
So, and the Ninja Turtles ones. I mean, man, they're doing a lot. So that is the main one. And then we have the 1 in 11 black and white one that we are selling to our customers for $10.
All right, the last one I want to show off is Odinn's Eye #3 is out. This is the latest one from Bad Idea. They've been releasing this one weekly, which is just sort of amazing because it's like a 2-part comic series every single week. So you get the next 2 parts of Odinn's Eye, which has just beautiful art. If you think the cover looks good, the interior art is every bit as good. And as always, it has a backup story in it. So I did not have time to sit down and fully read this one yet because it's a lot.
Yeah.
We had to get the show going, but I want everyone to know that that is out. There's still issue #4 of it to come next week, though.
Yeah, I know they were trying to get all of these out before 2022, and it looks like it's just going to be right on the line when they have it out.
So yeah, actually, you mentioned something. You reminded me. This is our last Day Early Comics Review show of the year.
Yes.
So we will be back next year, of course, doing them again. And between now and then, this Friday, we're going to be doing Comics from the Future. So tune in for that. So we hope all of you have enjoyed our reviews. And if you watch on YouTube, please hit subscribe.
I still didn't show off this one.
Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself.
I was also going to say, I didn't get a chance to read this, but Superman 78, this is the issue before the last. It's got this beautiful Francis Manapul cover.
That's issue #5?
5 of 6,
okay.
Yes.
I know that.
Yeah, great cover. It's such a fun series, so don't miss out on that one.
Okay.
And continue.
And with that, we will end the show for today. So thank you for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. We'll be back next week doing our Day Early Review, and we'll be on Friday with Comics from the Future. Until then, have a great evening, and go read your favorite comic. It's a good way to spend an evening.
Yeah.